You know, Jim, there are a lot of people who come through the doors of the Center for Plant-Based Living who have this kind of like this white look on their face because they have just been diagnosed with cancer. And it's heartbreaking because I can remember the day that I was diagnosed with cancer. And in fact, I lost my dad to cancer, and just 10 weeks after he passed away, that's when I was diagnosed. So really it was that 1-2 punch I needed to do a deep dive and do what research I could to figure out how I could help myself and hopefully not get it again. And that's where I learned that nutrition plays actually a pretty big role in the state of our health, including, you know, when we're talking about really scary things like cancer.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Caryn. And you know, you and your dad aren't alone. Close to 2 million people in the United States were diagnosed with cancer last year. And we know that food plays a very important role in increasing your risk for cancer, but more importantly, lowering your risk for cancer.
Okay, so that's, I mean, I have read that, and I think that a lot of people put those two things together, but we really don't know exactly which foods help fight cancer and why, right?
Right.
So,
well, I think more importantly, you know, there's two sides to this, right?
Yeah.
It's not only the foods that prevent cancer, which we're going to talk about in a minute, but what about the foods that increase your risk for cancer, right? So it's things like processed meat, red meat, very high. So it's inflammation is really at the core of a lot of this, and the heme iron and the nitrates and the cured meats and the red meat markedly increase your risk for cancer. We know that dairy products, so dairy is a biologic fluid that evolved to facilitate baby mammals turn into big mammals.
so you're talking ice cream,
Right,
cheese,
exactly.
yogurt.
And one of the ways to stimulate that growth, to take a 70-pound cow, for example, and turn it into a 1,700-pound cow, is through a compound called insulin growth factor 1, or IGF-1. And so insulin growth factor 1, unfortunately, can't tell the difference between the healthy cells that we need to grow and get big and strong and the cancer cells that we all generate on occasion. And so dairy's been associated with increased risk for cancer. We know that fried foods increase risk for cancer. And it has to do with some chemicals like acrylamides, which are called acrylamides, which accumulate or formed at those high temperatures when we cook food in oil. We know that grilling food or roasting meat forms other kinds of carcinogens. Carcinogens are compounds that increase risk for our cancer. We know that sugar, highly sugared foods, sweetened beverages increase your risk for cancer. Again, when we eat those sweetened foods, it spikes our insulin levels. And remember, insulin is a growth factor, right? And so again, when we don't want, what we don't want to do is stimulate cancer cells to grow, and that's exactly what happens.
Yeah, no kidding. And that seems like kind of a long list of foods that increase the risk for cancer. So what can we eat? What can we all eat to hopefully lessen, number one, even getting cancer for the first time, right? Or if you've had it before, and as I have, I really want no business with cancer again. So what can we eat to lessen that occurrence?
No, exactly. You know, the sad part is, by the way, those foods I just listed make up the vast majority of calories in the standard Western diet.
Oh,
right.
Right.
If you think about it,
yeah.
right? And so to that point, it's really about eating the rainbow. Remember I said that inflammation is at the core. And so when we eat foods that are anti-inflammatory, that's what lowers our risk. And in general, the more color foods have, the more anti-inflammatory they are.
So that's what eating the rainbow. We
Exactly.
always hear eating the rainbow.
Right.
Please eat the rainbow.
Exactly. So think about going to McDonald's and you see someone carrying their tray back to the table. What's the primary color you see?
Yellow, brown.
Brown. Well, the yellow is some fake mustard. The red is some ketchup, which is full of high fructose corn syrup.
Yeah.
There might be a little wilty, piece of lettuce there, but it's brown. It's the French fries, the meat, the bun, right? And so again, we're not getting these incredibly beautiful foods, which are what actually cause decreased risk for cancer.
Okay, so let's build a salad that will hopefully, do its best in helping keep us healthy today, right?
Right.
So the rainbow. Now, remember in grade school, at least Roy G. Biff. That's how I remembered the order of the colors of the rainbow.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So let's start.
So what's the R?
The R is, so it's tomatoes, but it's R for Roy, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Right. So how are tomatoes going to help fight cancer?
Well, so tomatoes have a compound called lycopene. And lycopene is a very potent antioxidant, which has been shown to decrease both the risk of prostate cancer, but also breast cancer.
Cool. All right. So carrots, everybody eats
That's
carrots.
the O, right?
Yeah, Roy.
The O in Roy.
O and Roy.
That's
yeah,
exactly right. So carrots are high in a compound called beta-carotene, another very potent antioxidant. It's been associated with a lower risk of colon cancer, for example.
Yeah. And Bugs Bunny's favorite food.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And this is a bell pepper. This is a yellow bell pepper, nice
The
crunch.
Y in Roy.
Yes.
Right? So bell peppers are probably one of the best sources of vitamin C. Again, another very potent antioxidant, anti-inflammatory.
I would not think of a bell pepper as vitamin C.
It is, in fact, one of the best sources of vitamin C you can consume.
Okay. And kale, don't we always put, try to put kale in everything,
right?
right?
Right. And that's the G,
Yeah.
the middle name. Mm-hmm. Right? So kale is in a class of, it's a cruciferous vegetable.
Okay.
And there's many kinds of cruciferous vegetables. We've actually got a couple more, which we'll talk about in a second, on the table here today. But cruciferous vegetables have a compound called glucosinolate.
I know, it's a long one.
Yeah, right.
Even for the
that's a
doc.
whole family of compounds which are highly, highly cancer-fighting. It's really amazing the power of these cruciferous vegetables in helping us control inflammation. And
The more the better.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
Okay, so edamame.
We've got a couple of G's here. Because,
Oh, that's right. So we have, yes, that's right. Roy G. Bibb.
Yeah,
So we're
right,
going to
right.
really hit the G
G,
hard.
Right. G, right? So edamame is soybeans, right?
Yes.
So
Yummy.
soy actually lowers the risk of breast cancer. If you've had breast cancer, it lowers the risk of recurrence, and it lowers the risk of prostate cancer in men.
I cannot wait to start talking about that in another episode because
Yeah.
breast cancer and soy is a very real thing. I
Right.
love it. I love it. It really helps ward it off, right?
Sure.
Or prevent it.
That's right,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
right, that's
okay,
right.
we're on our last G, the green and this is
Broccoli.
Broccoli.
Another cruciferous vegetable.
Yes.
And it's got a compound sulforaphane,
Uh-huh.
which also, it's kind of in that glucosinolate family, which
Yeah.
has been shown to help lower the risk of cancer, but particularly broccoli, though.
Broccoli's so badass.
Yeah.
All right, so Roy G. Bibb. This
Blue.
is blue.
Blueberries.
Berries.
Blueberries are probably one of the most powerful anti-cancer drugs out there, and they've all. I say drug; it is a drug,
Yeah,
really.
right.
It's also been shown to help prevent things like Alzheimer's disease, believe it or not. And again, it's the pigments in the skin that make it blue, which is where those cancer-fighting properties come from.
All right, so now we have
Another cruciferous vegetable.
yes, and this was indigo, right? Yeah.
This is indigo-ish.
Yeah, indigo-ish. Ish.
So red cabbage, and again another cruciferous vegetable. So you're getting some more of the benefits of that.
Oh, so delicious. And then red onion.
Right.
Or no, well,
this is violet.
Violet. Sorry.
Right. So red
Sorry,
onion.
Roy.
Yeah. so again, this is in a family called the Allicin vegetables. And
Allicin.
right,
I remember reading that
exactly.
somewhere.
And so you must have paid attention in culinary school.
did.
So again, very high in compounds like quercetin, for example, which have been shown antibacterial, anti-inflammatory. And what about these foods? These
So
don't have a lot of color.
that was my next question for you because all these beautiful colors
Right.
represent different antioxidants. Is that
Antioxidants.
right? Okay.
That's exactly right.
All right, so these do not have very much color, like cauliflower.
Right, but it's a
But-
cruciferous vegetable.
Yes.
So to give it a little more color.
And then we also have some quinoa here, which
Right.
is actually a seed and not a grain.
It's a pseudo grain.
Yeah, yeah. Cooks up like a grain.
So the reason these last two, one of the reasons they're important is fiber, right? We know that fiber, in particular, significantly lowers our risk for colon cancer. And so, again, it's all about the fruits and the vegetables and the high fiber foods. And the black beans, interestingly enough, many people don't realize this. When you think about foods that are anti-inflammatory, oftentimes the first thing that comes to mind are things like blueberries, right?
Right, yeah. The dark berries, they say
exactly.
eat the dark berries.
It
yeah.
turns out that dark beans are some of the most highly anti-inflammatory foods you can eat. And the reason is it's the pigment in the skin, right?
It's a
that
dark,
makes it dark
yeah.
color. Exactly.
So is it just more concentrated?
It is. And so, again, when we think about preventing muscle soreness after exercise, again, it's just very potent anti-inflammatory drug again, but food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so to top off our cancer fighting / preventing salad is this dressing that I made, and it's been in the fridge for a couple of hours. And this is some stuff.
Well, what does it have in? What all
So
does it have in it?
it has some date paste for sweetness. And then also one of the big, and I think you being the doc can probably vouch for this, one of the big cancer fighters in here that I've put in here is turmeric.
Right, right. So a couple quick comments. You mentioned you use dates.
Yeah.
Well, as I said earlier, foods that have a lot of sugar can really spike insulin levels. And the greater chance of food spikes insulin, that has what's called a glycemic index. So the glycemic index is a measure of how likely a food's going to spike insulin. Date paste, all of these, even the fruit we have here, has a very low glycemic index. So you're not going to see that big spike in insulin, that big spike in the growth factor, right? And turmeric, though, in and of itself, is a very potent cancer-fighting food, if you will. And it's felt that the active ingredient in turmeric is called curcumin, and curcumin is again been shown to help prevent cancer and help prevent heart disease and some other things. What's interesting about curcumin, if you crack a little black pepper, that helps our bodies absorb the curcumin, and actually you can see curcumin absorption increase by about 40% just by adding a little bit of black pepper to any kind of dish you're serving with turmeric.
So that is crazy business, right? I mean, the science behind getting well is
it's just
amazing.
Nature's an amazing thing,
right? I know.
It really is, and I just think we have such a disconnect between the food that we eat and our health, and this is really it may not be easy, but it's really so simple.
That is really something that we love to say because it's true. It is. It's a very simple thing to do, but not always easy.
Right?
Yeah.
And so hopefully, you can take something away from here to make it a little easier for you to incorporate in your day-to-day living. Yeah.
So let's deliciously fight cancer.
Yeah, right. Can't wait. That's so good.
Oh yeah.